Dragon Quest has always had some fantastic spin-offs, not you. But when it came to the Switch versions of some of these major spin-off releases, they would suffer a bit performance-wise. It's no doubt the worst place to play some of these games. But now that the Switch 2 is out, it's an entirely different story. I was at the midnight launch event at my local store, first in line because apparently I have nothing better to do than to turn up 4.5 hours early. I got a Switch 2, came home, and the first thing I thought was, I wonder if Dragon Quest spin-offs actually run well now. So let's find out. I think Dragon Quest Builders 2 is one of the best Dragon Quest games. Not just best Dragon Quest spin-off games, best Dragon Quest games, period. It's got the heart, the humour, the tragedy of a good Dragon Quest game, and in my opinion its emotional beats hit harder than most. It won my pick in Juki's video collab for saddest moments in the Dragon Quest franchise, and I stand by that decision. I never finished it on the Switch because I just couldn't handle the performance. I never even got past the first couple of islands until I rebought it on the PS4, so naturally that was the first game I had to try, and my god, the difference was astonishing. And you'd expect that. New hardware, better performance, but often it isn't so cut and dry. The game just runs so well on the Switch too. I mean, see for yourself. And objectively, the numbers backed me up. I did some of my own testing. These are approximations from frame analysis using a Python script that I wrote. So while not gospel, they give a really good rough estimate as to game performance and line up well with my subjective opinion of how well the game feels to run. I'll leave the ultra accurate measuring to the pros. On the Switch 2, the performance is so much more stable, and honestly it felt flawless. Just look at the absolute mess of the original Switch's performance, dropping as low as even like 10 FPS and capping out at somewhere around 48. The difference is night and day. Not only is Builders 2 a brilliant game in its own right, now the Switch version, with the caveat of needing to be played on the Switch 2, is comparable to other platforms and well worth choosing. Don't get me wrong, there are a small number of minor frame drops, but with a nearly consistent 60 FPS, it's just so much better than it was on the Switch 1, and I can tell you, I didn't personally feel those frame drops while playing. Also, loading times. On the Switch while booting up Builders 2, I could have gone and had my breakfast, brushed my teeth, come back and still had time to kill. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was long, and now it's much less long. But the story isn't always so crystal clear. Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince, or Dragon Quest Monsters 3. It stands as a great game in Dragon Quest spin-offs. Maybe not the fan favourite Monsters game, but a really good one with a lot to offer. Of the 3 games I tested, Dragon Quest Monsters ran the best on the original Switch, at least in my opinion. I played the game for a few minutes of what I would describe as very standard gameplay on each console, going for as close to identical gameplay as a human being can do. Again, there are better sources for rigorous scientific testing and experimentation, but these sources lack the Dragon Quest hyperfixation. Please consider subscribing for more Dragon Quest content and bizarre mathematical and programming experiments applied to it. Thank you, back to the analysis. Dragon Quest Monsters ran great on the Switch too. Not 60 FPS like Builders 2, but it did feel better. Smoother. I did not see a single drop below 30 FPS in my testing. In the original version on the Switch, it maintained 30 FPS most of the time, but it did see some significant drops from time to time. And on top of that, on the original Switch, there was a lot more variance on how well the game performed depending on which region you were in. That variance has very much been smoothed out on the Switch too. Improvement is improvement, and this improvement was very noticeable. I'll tell you one area where I really could tell the difference. The Switch 1 would really struggle with the high-speed turn-based combat and flashy effects. The Switch 2, no problem. I am among those who actually liked Dragon Quest Treasures, and that's not because I'm a Dragon Quest shill who will praise anything they release. I can accept when a Dragon Quest game is just not good. But I think Dragon Quest Treasures is a solid little title with a lot of fun to offer, and it's obviously aimed at a younger demographic. Dear Lord, the Switch performance at times was, frankly, unbearable. My testing showed an average FPS on the Switch of 26.68 and an average FPS on the Switch 2 of 29.86. That might not seem like a huge jump, but just look at the graph. Was the performance perfect? No. I mean, you can see the dips, but I promise you, it was way better feeling. I mean, the Switch 1 performance made it look like someone with an arrhythmia, and Switch 2 sort of a regular heartbeat. I mean, just look at the side by side, you can see the difference. I performed all of these experiments in docked mode due to the nature by which I performed the tests, but handheld performance felt comparable. Previously, I would have said if you do want to play Dragon Quest Treasures, play it on Steam or don't bother. But again, now with the caveat that you need to play it on the Switch too, I feel like I can actually recommend it. And frankly, I'm not at all surprised to still see little dips in performance in this game here and there. It should have been much better optimised from the get-go. Overall, to be honest, I'm really happy that I finally have a reason to dust off my Switch versions. I mean, they're actually good now. But for real, the improvements are more than noticeable. With the standout absolutely being Dragon Quest Builders 2, which is great because out of all the Dragon Quest spin-offs on modern consoles, that's the one that deserves it the most. It's a highlight not only in performance, but in the game itself. But also it just makes sense because Dragon Quest Builders 2's frame rate was uncapped, which was bad news for the Switch 1, but excellent news for the Switch 2. What would be great would be if Square Enix gave us some official Switch 2 patches for these games, but that's a pipe dream. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing, and leave a comment letting me know what Switch 1 games you're excited to try on the Switch 2 with better performance. Or not, up to you. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.